Alright guys, I might be ill, but we've got to continue cooking the series, and today we're going to be looking at the best combos you can get with the Imperial Plaid Driver Gloves. So I have them here, and I have gone for minimal wear, because I think for $620 for minimal wear gloves, that's actually not too bad price-wise. Of course, you can save a decent chunk and go field test it. If you get below 0.25 float with a good pattern, they're going to look pretty clean. I would suggest you pair these with a Phase 1 Doppler. Now, you could go for any Phase 1 Doppler you like, but the reason for it is pretty much you see how the colors pair there. You've got purple, multiple shades of purple, and a little bit of blue coming through on the gloves. So, whenever you have the knife, the Phase 1 Doppler basically pairs with that absolutely perfectly. I've picked the bayonet, factory new, which is about $624, which means our combo cost is just under $1,250. And then over the last year and a half, weapon skins have got so good for this. Very quickly on the agent side of things, you can see here we've gotten sleeveless. It is going to be Mr. Lieutenant Commander Ricksaw, who's about $11.30 at the time of planning. And if you're wondering, all these prices are from February the 8th. Over on the USP, I think it's such an obvious pick these days. We have the Alpine Camo added into the game. Now, this is just under $4 for factory new. It is also pattern based, so that those little bits of like case hardened effect or heat treated, whichever term you want to use for it, they can become blue and become blue gems. There's currently a mix of reasonable and crazy overpay for them, but even without the blue gem vibe, this is probably the best option to have. And we've not shown a lot of love to P2Ks recently, so I want to show a little bit of love there. Acid Etched and minimal wear will cost you about $2. Personally, I am a big fan of this skin. The purple's not 100% accurate, but it's got to be the best off the P2Ks. Now, following the new format, we will go through the rest of the CT side pistols, the SMGs, and get on to the rifles. P250, you are going to use this on both sides, much like the Desert Eagle. It's the Vino Primo. The fact that this is $1.20 in field test it, you're not going to use it a crazy amount per game. You might want to look at like an epicenter or something like that, but I do think Vino Primo is the best bet. And while many might expect a Kamicho Dragon or an Ocean Drive, we're going all out with the Starcade for the Desert Eagle here. This was added with the Armory Pass. It is $120 for minimal wear, so it is a chunky price, but it's got that mix of purple and blues. There are some like sort of pinks in there as well, but it's got that glitter effect on the new model, and for me, I just think it looks incredibly nice. And then for the Joe Berettas, it's cheap and cheerful, but we get some Flora Carnivoras. The fact these are like well under $1 for minimal wear, and I actually really like the artwork on them, so it's a bit of a win. 5.7, there's a few options. You have the likes of the Flame Test, which I'm showing you now, which is only 9 cents for minimal wear, and that's why I think you should go for it. There's also the Violet Daimyo, which I think that level of purple could pop well, or then the hybrid, but for me, it didn't work all that well. Now, if we're being real, the Wild Lily in factory new is the absolute perfect MP9 here, but it is almost $2,500, so well, it's the best pairing, it's not going to be my suggestion. Instead, I'm going to go for the Mount Fuji. We don't really have a purple MP9 outside of the Wild Lily. So, I think Mount Fuji, it's that pink, it's got a little bit of blue in it. Overall, it can blend in, and it costs about $8 for minimal wear. It's pretty solid. Now, on the MP7, we're going to go fade, but you have to make sure you go high fade percentage. So, this is a 96% fade, and the pricing for it, I actually found this one on a marketplace, $6.08. And if you want to know the best marketplaces to buy on, I'll link the 3 that I use regularly in the description down below. But yeah, when you get this feed on it, it goes pretty much mostly purple, that little bit of pink, which means it looks really nice. The UMP is a little bit of a cop-out, I think, because we have the Moonrise. It's 60 cent minimal wear. It does the job nicely for us, but it's nothing crazy, you know? On the XM side of things, 80 cent will get you a minimal wear Ziggy. Now, this is a pattern-based skin where it's got this like silver base with the sort of greyish accents, and then it's got this bright green and this purple across it. 80 cent gets you like a pattern like this. It's mixed. You can also go and overpay for full purple if you really want to. I really like the Mag 7 pick because we get a monster call. This is another one that's under $1 for minimal wear. The artwork is strong, so like value for money here, you're cooking. And for the M4A1S, I actually have 3 suggestions. So the main go-to I think most people should look at is the Black Lotus. This in minimal wear is like $13.60. It is a fantastic skin. The value for money is incredible on it, and you can see how well it works with the gloves. If you have a higher budget and you're determined to spend more, I've got like 2 upgrade phases. The first upgrade option would be the Vaporwave, which in minimal wear is just under $150. I personally run a minimal wear Vaporwave. I think it's an absolute vibe, and I'm in the process of changing gloves, and I'm torn between actually Imperial Plaids and Amphibious, and that with the Imperial Plaids, it looks really nice. Now, personally, I think the Black Lotus or the Vaporwave would be the best choice. If you want to spend over $400, however, you could pick up an M4A1S Fade. I still think, personally, this is a little bit overrated and a bit overpriced. And that'll be the hill I die on. Maybe you disagree. You can let me know in the comments down below. I was torn between the Dragon King and the Desolate Space as the M4A4 option there. So they, I think, flat out, they're the best two options. I lent into the Dragon King. The price has risen since this update. It's now about $41 from factory new. But for me, I don't know what it is. It's an OG skin, and it screams like a better and budget version of the Hoyle. Over on the op side of things, it's not going to be a Neo Noir. If you're an opper, I think you should be getting an Onitaji here flat out. It is about $300 in the minimal wear, so it is pricey, but obviously if that's your role and you're going to spend this much money on a loadout, you need to make sure you prioritize the op. If you don't op that often, or you're like me and you in-game lead and you're lucky if you get to op one round a game and I'll still whiff, then that's when you should be taking a look at the Sun and Leo, which in fact you runs you about $35. My issue here is no scope design, but you can put a purple sticker on the scope. But across the board, that Onitaji with the gloves just looks so nice. To finish off the CT side, we have the FAMAS and the AUG or Scout. So the FAMAS, I'm going to go Rapid Eye Movement. This is $3.30 in minimal wear. It's got a nice mix of different like blues and purples on it, so it actually pairs really well with the gloves. And then while the minimal wear Death by Puppy does get some very visible scrapes on it, it's $6 for minimal wear, and I don't really fancy paying that like increase towards factory new, especially with how little people tend to use the AUG these days. And you might want to flat out ignore this and just use the Scout that we're going to have on T side. Before we look at the T side weapons, we do have a different agent here, and it's going to be Sir Bloody Silent Darrell, who's about $27 at the time of planning. I was considering going for a Darrell that had gold jewelry, but I thought, you know what, we'll go silver this time. And it's just like the silver and black throughout, and then really we're letting the gloves and the weapons and the knife pop and do the talking. Now, this Moonrise, I don't really think it's a cop-out, because it is a fantastic option. It's $1.95 for a factory new Glock Moonrise. Now, I've not priced for a star pattern here. Those rare star patterns are pretty easy to find. It's not crazy overpay. You can get one if you want to, but I would prefer just to do a nice 4x craft over this and not really worry about that star pattern at all. For the Tech 9, there's a world where I should be suggesting the Decimator right now, but for how little the Tech 9 will get used, and the price of the Decimator, I don't think it's worth it. And I think you should be going for a Sandstorm. Now, I went base pricing, which is about $1.96 for minimal wear. You can see here, heavy amount of purple on it, but you still get that sort of tan, sandy color. So I would suggest that you have a look at the marketplaces, a link down below, and just find one that's got a nice purple pattern for you, and try to avoid overpaying too much. And then this one, I should have followed the same logic as the Tech 9, but I think it's the only real option, and it's the Zhanglu ZZ, which is almost $12. So if you don't want to spend as much on the ZZ, or you don't even use one, just gloss over this and ignore it. For me, on the Mac 10 side of things, I really like going for the Sabai Oni here, because it is this mix of like pinky purple. It doesn't pair perfectly, but when it comes to artwork and just like a vibey skin, like $2.90 min wear is ticking that box for us. If you wanted something to fit the color scheme a bit more, you're really looking at like a light box, which is uber cheap, or maybe like an ultraviolet, which you're probably talking the same price as the Sabai Oni. Now, we have another pattern-based skin here. If you are a MP5 enjoyer, like myself, you might want to go get a Neon Squeezer. Now, the one thing to note here is the lowest float this can get is 0.2, which means you're field tested at the best. It is a darker deep purple base, and then obviously pattern base with these different like neon elements over it, so you can find one that really suits what you're after. But if you get lots of like this pink and purple and blue, it's going to look good. The P90 has a banging choice, because we can get the Neo Queen, but we're going to get it in Battle Scarred, because when it goes to Battle Scarred, you can see here, it gets this wonderful purple hue over the entire like skin, which just looks great, especially when you're only spending 31 cents. Now, I almost picked up a Phoenix Blacklight in factory new for the Gale, but I'm going to go for the Rainbow Spoon. It's almost $65 in factory new. I'm still not 100% sure on the fact that it's got these heavy sort of black and grey bits in it, much like the Emperor when it's faded. I would prefer if that wasn't there, but this has fantastic craft potential with purple stickers. Look at the Furias, for example. So if we're talking best pairing, I think this is going to win out. And now, there's only one option for the AK. It's going to be a Neon Rider. Maybe some claims for a Baroque Purple there if you want a budget option, but $150 for a factory new Neon Rider. This is fantastic with these gloves. If you had the budget to go get like a London Conspiracy craft on this, absolute chef's kiss. Now, that Scout I mentioned when we were discussing the AUG on the CT side would be the Turbo Peak, which in minimal wear is over $9. It is flat out though, I tested a few, I think it's flat out the best pairing for the Imperial Plaid Gloves. And then finally, cheap and cheerful for the SG, it's going to be the Aloha Infantry unit, which costs you about 21 cents, which means this total loadout cost for the best combos with the Imperial Plaids comes out at $2,031. So we're talking just over a $2,000 loadout here for something that comes together really, really nicely. Like, personally, I would probably look at a different Doppler. I'd maybe look at spending a little bit more if I had a budget to go for, like, a Talon or for a Stiletto. But that is personal preference, and obviously, if you have a lower budget, you could look at something like a Gut Knife or a Navaja if you wanted to. And I'm going to end it there and try and cut the waffle. I want to say a big thank you to the YouTube members that continue to support the channel. Those names will be up on screen now. A big, big thank you. If you want to become a YouTube member, check that join button down below and it will give you all the details for it. Outside of that, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to catch you guys in the next video, and goodbye.